Good morning. Welcome back to another Slightly Rednecked video. Again, my name's Chris. If you're new to this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or heck, even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. And it's Sunday morning here. I'm getting ready to go to church. I had a little bit of time. I thought I'd take you around on a little bit of a garden tour, show you what's going well, what's not going well. All right, before I get into showing off the garden here, let me just kind of give you guys an update. If you've been following my channel for a little while, you know that I was kind of delayed on putting some videos out. Had a lot of problems going on around here. Had a water leak in the main service line. It was costing me $250 a month in water. Ridiculously high water bill. It took me forever to track that down. Well, I got that fixed finally. Eventually what happened was, I did all kinds of troubleshooting, trying to track down where the leak was. Found a problem at the meter itself. When I would shut the meter off, you could still hear it gurgling. Now, it wasn't registering that I was using water, but you could still hear it gurgling. So I called the water company. They came out, checked it out. They came out the next day, replaced my meter, and that fixed my water leak. So the leak must have been right there at the meter. I never did see a wet spot in the yard, never did see water bubbling up anywhere, any of those kinds of things. So it was really hard to track down. But the water leak is fixed, so that's a big weight off my mind. And then same day, we had a heavy downpour, discovered a leak in the roof, so I had to fix that. But I got that fixed. That ended up not being a big deal at all. So anyway, let's get on to the garden tour. It is late June right now. Let's see, tomorrow is July 1st. And honestly, most things are usually a little bit further along than they are right now. But we had so much rain and so much cool weather this year that it took me a while to get things into the ground. So I'm about 3 weeks probably behind where I would normally be this time of year, but there's some things really going well. First thing, you might notice my cucumbers over here. I'll bring you a little bit closer and show you these, but these guys are doing great. They have just taken over. It's just a mountain of cucumber plants right here, and they're starting to put on fruit right now. Okay, if you look through here, I've got tons of blooms. I don't know if you can see this or not. It's probably, the camera's probably not showing it very well, but there's some cucumber right there on that blossom end on there. Got another couple down here. They're just coming on all over the place. It won't be long. I got flowers all over the place. It won't be long. We'll have a boatload of cucumbers, be making some pickles. These are doing great. No problems whatsoever with these. Okay, this is the garlic right here. It's pretty much ready to harvest. I need to get this out of the ground. Some of it I've let go just a little bit too long. I've got a separate video I'm going to be shooting on that to show you how to grow garlic from start to finish. And I'll get this stuff harvested out probably today, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. See how time allows. All right, so the green beans. See if I can get in camera here. Green beans doing great. These are about 2 weeks behind these right here, and they've already caught up. Now they're just putting on flowers, so we should start seeing some pretty good harvest out of that pretty quick. And we're just getting some green beans actually. These are still a little bit too small to harvest, but maybe you can see those on camera. But we just got our first harvest out of here last night. It wasn't much more than just a handful, enough for me and my wife. But these are coming on pretty good, and we'll start getting green beans probably in the next couple of days. I'll start having to harvest just about every day off these things. Have plenty to can and put away, which is good because green beans are about one of the only vegetables we can get my stepson to eat. So we're hoping for a good harvest. I'm probably going to plant another row of green beans down here in this empty spot so we can have some more harvest towards the end of the season. Okay, these were kind of an afterthought. These were just we needed something to fill the space. We went to the store, found pea plants. So we've transplanted them out here, but they've got pea pods on them. Not very many. We're not going to get a huge harvest off this, but it was something to grow. I've actually never grown peas before. It was something new for me. So I just strung up this fence, give them something to climb. That's done pretty well. I think if I should have got it in a little bit earlier, but for the most part, it's doing pretty good. We've had so much rain, so much wind, it's just kind of been blowing things around. But these are doing great. The good thing is I haven't had to water a bit. I haven't had to water one time the entire season so far. Because we get rain like every couple of days at least, and it's kept everything pretty well watered. I'm not sure if I'm in camera or not, but you can see the corn here is doing pretty good. This is the first batch I planted right here, and then about 2 weeks later planted this right here. So, that's why it's so much smaller. But it's putting on, it's starting to put on heads now. We've got, the little tufts here that come up, so it's getting ready to start producing some corn. Looking forward to that. That should be good. It's looking pretty good. We got some zucchini and squash plants right along here. They're doing great. No problems whatsoever. We got a couple of our first harvest of summer squash off this plant last night. We got two pretty decent sized little summer squash, but they're full of flowers, starting to produce some fruit. So we will be overrun with zucchini and squash before long. They're looking fantastic. And the cantaloupe. No fruit produced from the cantaloupe yet, but the plant looks great. I got lots of flowers on here. Had to kind of, oh, looks like we got a start of a fruit right there. It's just starting. But everything, I mean, it looks great. Plant's growing like fantastic. Climbing this, just got to wait on this one. No problems that I can see, no bug damage. Everything's going great with the cantaloupe itself. I always like to grow my cantaloupe vertically. It just takes up so much less room. If this were just out on the ground growing, it would take up 8-10 feet and pretty much all the way around it. And here I can just grow it. I've got 4 or 5 cantaloupe plants here growing on this one little cage, and they'll climb this. I have to train them a little bit, have to come out here and catch the ones that are trying to get away, stick them back up on the fence, but then they'll start growing right up that fence. There's one there that's kind of getting away from me too. And that's it. These things are doing great. All right, so the pepper plants, they all look pretty good. I got some jalapenos starting in. Oh, I got a couple of big ones down here. You're probably a little off camera. You can't see those maybe, but the rest of the pepper plants all looking good. They're all flowering out. We've had a couple of banana peppers. We've got a couple more over here that are ready to harvest. I think I'm off camera, so you probably can't see that, but all the pepper plants look like they're doing really, really well. We should have some pretty good pepper harvests off these. I'm trying to remember what all they are. Jalapenos up here at the front, and I think these are habaneros back here. I don't remember, honestly. I'll have to wait till they start peppering out to find out. And then on the other side of me, I've got some banana peppers and some cayenne growing, which is a little bit off camera, so you can't see it. But let's talk about what's not going real well. Okay, what's not going real well is some of the tomatoes. Now, some of them are doing great. Like this one right here, this is an Amish paste tomato. It's doing great, no problems whatsoever. It's got some fruit on it, it's getting ready to produce. The one right next to it, looking a little bit puny. I mean, it's not dead, but it's looking kind of puny. It's just not producing like it should. And I've got a couple other down the road, which I'll show you here in just a minute. Some of them doing great, some of them not so good. They're looking kind of, like I said, kind of sickly like this. Had a little bit of a problem with the tomatoes. I'll tell you about it. Okay, again, some of these, like this one over here, maybe on camera, it looks great. And most of them down this row look pretty good, but every once in a while, like this one right here, it's not really doing that great. I mean, it should be much taller. I've got some fruit produced on it, so it's not gonna die. And this one here, same thing, it's a little stubby. It's got some tomato coming in, but it just doesn't look that great. It's just not that robust and not that big. And I think a big problem I had with my tomato plants this year was it was so cold and so rainy so late in the season. Usually I'm getting these things in by Mother's Day, and I was like 3 weeks behind that because it just would not warm up. Tomatoes are a heat-loving plant. I didn't want to put them out when the nighttime temperatures were dropping down below 50 degrees. It really kind of hurts the plants. But as a result, they were in pots for a very long time. They got very tall and very lanky in those pots. So transplanting them out, it took a little while for them to get going. And some of them just didn't really recover real well from that. They just stayed real lanky, real thin. They just didn't get real big and real robust. So, I mean, that's a lesson to not start your tomato plants too early because these kinds of things can happen. But, there's still enough being produced. I'm going to get a decent harvest off that. Now, I've got a couple that look pretty sickly, like this one right over here. Let me bring you in a little close and show you. Hopefully you can kind of see this. It's got some fruit being produced on it, but it just doesn't look good. A lot of yellow leaves, a lot of just sickly looking stuff. I need to prune it up and get rid of all that yellow, nasty stuff. It's probably either some kind of fungus or maybe some early blight, something like that. Other than that, I've got one down here that really looks bad, but I'm not gonna remove this plant. I might prune it up a little bit. But every once in a while you get a plant like this that, all the rest of them are doing pretty good, pretty decent, look pretty healthy. But this one here definitely looks stressed, looks a little sick. Now you could pull this out of the ground if you wanted to. I find that that's not necessary. And I generally leave it in place because if I get like a bug problem of some kind of pest problem that comes to the garden, they're gonna go after my 6 stressed plants first. So this is kind of a target plant. Let them have this plant if they want. It's already sickly, it's already not doing real well, and leave my other plants alone. They'll generally go after this one before they go after any of the other ones. So if I pull it out of the ground and get rid of it, and they come, then they're gonna hit my other plants. So this is kind of, I leave them in there. I just let it go. As long as it's not some kind of major disease that I think is gonna spread and kill the rest of my plants, I just don't worry about it. I will come back through and prune this up a little bit, so it's gonna look a little bit scraggly in the end, but it is producing some tomatoes, so maybe it'll do okay in the end after all. All right, so now speaking of tomato success, I mean, these couple of tomatoes here, this is a beefsteak, Mortgage Lifter Red, and it's doing great. It's got some nice big fruit coming in. Well, I don't think you can see it on camera. You probably can't, but it's doing really well. And I got a couple more down the road that are doing pretty well. And these cherry tomatoes are just taking off. I mean, they've got tons of blossoms on them. We got the first couple of cherry tomatoes off of them last night. I mean, they're producing fruit all over the place. You probably can't see it very well on camera, but it's just green tomatoes, nothing to see. These are doing great. I'm really excited about these. That gives you something to just kind of snack on and slice those open, put a little salt on them, and you got a mouthful of just heaven right there. They're fantastic tomatoes. We got the first couple last night. I was excited about them. This tomato plant's looking pretty sickly too. Let me turn the camera just a little bit. All right, again, this tomato plant right here, it doesn't look good at all. I don't see any blossoms on it, any blooms. I don't know if it's gonna produce anything or not. I need to do some pruning, get some of this dead stuff off of it. Oh, there's one bloom right there. But again, I'm just gonna leave this one, let the pests have it if they want it, and leave my other fruits alone, hopefully. But I've still got, even though tomatoes didn't do as great as they usually do, I've got maybe probably three plants down this row that look pretty sickly like this, just aren't doing well, probably aren't gonna produce a bumper crop, but the rest of them are doing pretty good. And I expect to get really good results off of those. We're just getting there where, I've got some green fruit on a lot of these, waiting for it to ripen up. It's probably gonna be another couple of weeks, and then we get the first ripe slicing tomatoes out of the garden. The canyon tomatoes are doing okay, the Amish paste, and I'm looking forward to that harvest. Got the okra here, it's doing pretty good. Turn the camera so you can see. This is all okra, all down this row here. Haven't got a harvest off that. Oh, got a weed coming out. But I've got a few of them, a few fruits starting. Down here, it looks like we've got a couple. They're just getting going, but they're just tiny right now, just little bitty. So it'll be, probably about a week or so before we get any harvest off there. But the okra, for the most part, is doing pretty good. I had a couple weak ones in here throughout that didn't produce very well, but I got enough produce here that I think I'll be able to get some pickles and things like that out of it. Well, it's not all bad, it's not all great, but it's doing good. We're gonna produce some food out of this. And I'm excited to have some fresh pickles. I'm excited to have some fresh cantaloupe when that produces, the green beans, garden green beans, and tomatoes. Those are two of the things I think are probably the biggest difference between store-bought and homegrown. Now, everybody probably knows already that a homegrown tomato is so much better than a store-bought tomato. I always think the people that say that they don't like tomatoes, it's probably because they've never had a homegrown tomato. It's just night and day difference. Green beans are the same way. Fresh green beans out of the garden, so much better. Just drastically better than what you can buy at the grocery store. Now, pretty much everything out of your garden is better than what you get at the grocery store. But tomatoes and green beans are the two things that I think really are significantly better. So if you're gonna grow two things you really want, green beans, tomatoes, those are the two things that you can really tell the difference between a store-bought and homegrown. Again, the weather's been kind of crazy. We are at, let's see, it's the 1st of July tomorrow, and we just started getting our 90-degree weather. Usually we've got this stuff by the end of May. So it's been a little crazy. We've gotten so much rain. We had, last week, we had a downpour that came in with, I think we had like 5 inches in an hour and a half, something like that. It's just crazy amount of rain coming through. The rivers are all flooded around here, so I haven't been able to get any fishing in. But the good thing is I haven't had to water the garden. If anything, it's been probably too much water on the garden. But I didn't even have to water to get seeds to start. Everything just started just because there was so much rain coming in. The bad thing about that is I get in the habit of not watching the garden and not watering it. So when it dries up, I'm gonna have to really pay attention and make sure that I get things watered. But God's good. He always provides for us, always makes it through. even when your plants aren't healthy, aren't doing great, something produces off of them. So I'm very thankful. For the most part, things look pretty good in the garden this year. We're going to have a decent harvest out of this. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me this morning. I got to get this wrapped up, get off to church. God bless each and every one of you. Hopefully we'll catch you again on the next video. Take care.